Having covered the settings menu, we're now going to look at how we set up an employee. So I'll just maximize this back out again. So again, you can still set up your employees on a mobile phone if you needed to. So I maximize this out. So when you first come into My Timesheets, you come into the process of pay period review times area because that's the most common thing that you'll do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. But obviously from time to time, you'll need to set up new employees. So if you go to the employees menu here, and in there you'll get a list of your employees. But if we click on add, now in here I can edit just simply by clicking on an employee's name or clicking on the edit button. The key is the ability to change that employee's password if I choose to do that from here. The employee can obviously do that themselves using the reset password option on the site, but I can also got the ability to go in and do this myself if I choose to. So if I add an employee, now we're going to call this guy Bob Bobson, for want of a better name. His contact number is 027, whatever his phone number might be. We put in his email address, whatever that might be. We give him a fast PIN code. So what time My Timesheets has is the ability for employees, if they don't want to use their full email address, because sometimes email addresses are long and they can also be problematic when data is being entered, they can enter a fast PIN code, which means when they log in, they enter their PIN code, their password, and their company code rather than the full user code based on their email address. So if Bob wanted to use 777, then or 666, depending on what sort of person Bob is, he could enter a fast PIN code, or you could create that for him. They would enter his password so that he can then log in also with either of the two options. Now the password has to be 8 digits, so bear that in mind. If you don't do it in 8 digits, you'll get a warning. There's an option here to email the password to Bob. And what that will do is when I save Bob's record, it will send Bob an email with a link to accessing My Timesheets, his user code, his password, his company code, and his fast PIN code. And it'll also include a video link where he can watch a short video of about 4 or 5 minutes that talks him through the process, obviously, or it could be a her, through the process of entering a timesheet, looking at their own data, etc. So that's automated from the system. You don't need to do that. Assuming they have a valid email address here, then they will receive that particular email. We then put Bob into his appropriate department. So Bob's going to be working in Factory 3, but he's going to be working in admin in Factory 3 because that's going to be his cost center within Factory 3. Bob is either full-time, part-time, or casual, so we'll make Bob full-time today. And Bob needs a payroll code because we're going to be exporting Bob's information to the payroll. So we can call that whatever is in your payroll system is what you need to put in here. So if you don't know the payroll code, you need to speak to your payroll administrator. Now, if Bob was a salaried employee and Bob's data was going to be captured in My Timesheet so that you've got an employment record and you've also got perhaps some job costing and costed data record that you want to export to a job costing system, but you don't want to push it through to the payroll, you can exclude him from the payroll export. In this case, I'm not going to. And then if Bob left, then you could make Bob inactive, which means we'd still keep Bob's records. Bob would still be able to see his historical timesheets after he left the business or after he stopped using My Timesheets, but he wouldn't be able to load any more data in here. So we simply then go save, and Bob is now set up. And in a second, you'll see Bob's in my list. No, I don't want to save Bob's password because I'm not going to need that. So there's Bob Bobson. Now, if I want to go back and edit Bob, I can just simply click on Bob's name, and it takes me back into the edit mode. So that's how you'd go and add an employee. In the next video, we'll talk about how you review times, run reports, etc.